Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Risk and All podcast. We are joined by our usual hosts, myself and Brian of Jolly Media Marketing. And we've got a guest today that we're really excited to have on. We've got James Fleming joining us.
Welcome, James. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming on, mate. So James is a co-founder and managing director of The Power Within, which is a leadership development and business development coaching programme. So first of all, mate, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your time. We had a chat a couple of weeks ago. You're just down the road for us in Bellshill. I had to stop asking you questions because I just found everything you were saying very interesting. So I had to go, right, we need to keep this for the podcast. So, after our chat, you had told us about what you've done in business and your career, and it's just fascinating, mate. So we're delighted to have you on to tell us your story. We always like to go back to young James at the beginning.
Sure.
Before we get into what you're doing now. So, over to you, mate.
Oh dearie me, this is a good one, isn't it? The young James, Jesus, I was actually just talking about that. So, young James, so I left school at 17. The plan was to join my dad's business. He is a self-employed carpet fitter. Still is, by the way, 73 years old and still goes out and works. Because he's got a mindset of, if he retires, he's going to die. Right. So his attitude is, I'll just keep working. Mm-hmm. So he still goes out there and fits carpets, and he's an incredible guy.
It's funny you say that. My dad always said, I don't want to retire. My dad was an engineer for his life. I don't want to retire because I think my mind's going to go. Next thing you know, he's got all the grandkids running about and his mind's never been busier. So I get that parallel, to be honest. I always say he doesn't love his work, but he loves working. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? He doesn't love the job, but he loves working. Right? Keeps him busy. He says if he dropped down with a heart attack fitting a carpet, that would be him in heaven. So that was initially the plan.
Where were you from when you were younger? What town?
Newmains.
Newmains, right.
Aye, Wishy boy.
Wishy boy.
Wishy high. I was a wishy high boy.
How were you in school? Were you a toe rag?
I was a toe rag guy. I was an absolute toe rag, man.
Just wasn't it for you? Didn't enjoy it?
Do you know what it was, right? Now, again, success or excuses, right? I don't make excuses, right? Mm-hmm. I had dyslexia. I didn't know I had dyslexia. Right. I've got the attention span of an ant. Right, my mind's always gone. So school didn't really suit me. Mm-hmm. Right, I didn't. Other than the chicks at school, school was good because it was full of chicks at school. But other than that, I just didn't get school. I don't know why. Further on in life, moving on, I did enjoy going back when I went back into a further education, when I realised why I needed it. Aye. But at school, I just didn't get it. Right. I just didn't get it.
I think back then in particular, it wasn't really set up to nurture minds like that. It was just, you need to memorise shit. If you're good at memorising shit, you'll do well. If you're no, you won't.
Well, there you go. They've no good at memorising shit.
Came a bit further since then. So you left school kind of the first opportunity that you could get. Did you pursue college, uni, or anything like that?
Well, I didn't leave school at the first opportunity. So here's a wee quick story for you. Right. I left school at 16, first opportunity, went out to work with my dad during the summer, and he convinced me to go back, because I left school with no qualifications. Mm-hmm. And he convinced me, he says, if you go back to school, I'll pay you the same wage as your mates that are all working. So I was getting like 35 quid a week or something it was to go back to school. Mm-hmm. So believe it or not, I actually thought, right, okay, I can't go back to school and no try, or I'm just going to hate it. Aye. So I went back to school, and all I did was just, for the next year, just under a year, I really focused.
Right.
And I got a few exams. I got a few exam results, and I thought, this isn't that bad. Mm-hmm. It was at 17 I left, and I was going back into my dad's business, and then I was like, I don't like this.
That's actually quite interesting. So technically, when you look at it in its simplest form, your first job was going back to school. My first job was going back to school. That was my first job, going back to school. And I was out working with my dad during the summer. I'd left school, so at 17 I'd left school, and I hated it, man. I really did not enjoy it at all. And I remember saying to my dad, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. No worries. Got a job, got an effing job. Aye. And I remember I was about 2 or 3 weeks into getting an effing job, right? And I was, as you do, young, lying about the house, pretending I was looking for jobs. And I remember my dad came in, and it was a Thursday afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, came back for his work. And he came into the house and
James! And I'm up my room, and I heard the click, clump, clump, clump up the stairs, and the door flies open. He says, you got an effing job yet? I says, Dad, I've been trying all day. Don't effing give me any of your nonsense. And see the big yellow pages? He threw it at me, and he says, get that open and get a job. So the next day, I was doing, I don't know if you remember how old you are, but remember the rotary phones?
I remember them.
Well, I remember the rotary phones, right?
I don't know if I've ever used one, but I remember seeing them in a film.
My age do, right? I'm telling my age do. So it was the rotary phone that used to sit in the hall, and I remember the next day, and I got up, and it was about 10 o'clock, and I was dialing this bloody, and if you mess it up, you've got to start all and plink the thing down and lift up, and I literally phoned. So how did I need to go round back? So I was thinking, what do I want to do as a living? I don't know what I wanted to do, right? Like, I had no idea, right? Football was out to get. I love football. It was out the game. It was good enough. I'm thinking, I don't really want to be a fireman or any of the stereotypical stuff. I really didn't know. And I always remember the big fat tellies. Some of them you actually put a 50p and all that in it, right? The big fat tellies. Every so many months, the TV would break down, right? And the wee TV guy would come out with a wee brown briefcase and his wee coveralls, and he would open the TV up, and he would be, that's 60 quid, that's 40 quid. And every time he walked out the door, my mum would go, that bastard just cost me a fortune. So I'm like, I bet you TV guys make good money. So opens the yellow page up, TV repair. And I phoned every TV repair, and I ran out of TV repair, and then it was appliance testing, and I ran out of them, and I went to electrical, and I ran out of them, and I phoned the whole, I was literally, my finger was bleeding. I'm not shitting you, my finger was in bits, phoning all day, because I thought, my dad's going to kill me if I don't get a job. Because my dad was that guy, you're not working, get out, right? It was stand on your own 2 feet kind of guy. My dad left school at 13 or something, and what if he was 13? Anyway, so I'd literally finished, so it was maybe about 2:30 during the day. Now, I had been on this phoning, the usual, no interest, no answer, blah, blah, just constant no. And the phone rang, and I nearly jumped out my bloody skin, right? Oh, Jesus, the phone rang, and I picked up, hello. Hi, it's some young laddie just phoned here looking for a job. Aye, that was me. Way too enthusiastic. I mean, aye, that was me. He says, look, we've never had MD phone us about a job before. Now remember, way back then, so that wasn't the norm. He says, will you come down for an interview? And I says, aye, and I stuck my phone down. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know where I have to go. I don't even know.
Who did I speak to?
So you can't do a redial, remember? Right? So I had to go back through the phone and think for all the numbers, and I'm thinking, who was that? And I'm looking through them, and I eventually found the company, and it was a company called Weir and McQuiston.
Right.
For Netherton. Right. And they were a big electrical company. Anyway, I didn't know the electrical at the time, so I jumped on the bus because I weighed in for an interview. Walked into the wee office, there was a wee window. I came in, they took me into this guy called Brian Turpey. Came in, he was all covered in tattoos, big red handy ulster and all that over him. He was covered in tattoos. And he came away out and he says, right, wee man, come with me. And he takes me into this kind of boardroom, meeting room. And he sits what I now know is a SEC test. Back then it was just an aptitude test, I believe. And he says, right, do that. So I did the aptitude test, and he came back in what felt like hours, but it was like maybe 20 minutes. And I gave him the aptitude test, and he did a colour blindness test and an eyesight test thing on me. And then he buggers off. And I'm sitting there again, felt like hours, probably maybe 15, 20 minutes. And he came back and he goes, by the way, man, he says, you passed all the tests in flying colours, you start on Monday.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Now remember, I still think I'm a TV repair guy, right? So I runs away out. Now, by the way, I'm going to let you this one know. I've got my black funeral suit on, right? Too wee for me and all that. Right, for the interview.
Your dad's suit. Your dad's suit.
So, because it gets the bus up the road, and I couldn't wait for my dad to come in for work. So I'm literally sitting at the window waiting on him coming in. I seen the van pulls up outside, and off I went, flying across the grass. Dad, I've got a job. I'm going to fix tellies. Yeah, dancing. He's like, oh, well done, me, man. I says, I start on Monday. I says, I have to get into the workshop, blah, 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 blah. So Monday morning comes along, round the back of this workshop, and I'm sitting in the van, and it was about 10 to 8 in the morning. I'm looking at all the guys, and they've got boots and coveralls and all that on, and hard hats. I'm thinking to myself, can I tell he's away fixing it? Little did I know I became an apprentice electrician.
Right, there you go.
So that was really the start. So that was how that was me. That was me on the proper career ladder then. So I got a default electrician job by default.
By default, aye. What decade is this? What year is this?
This was 1989.
Right, okay. I think, like, I'm asking that, right, because there's an interesting, like, I don't want to be too cliche about it, but almost a bit of a lesson there, right? So we've had a couple of guests on thus far since we've started, and even with our business, and you ask the question, like, how did you get your business off the ground? And they go, I just phoned people, or I just messaged people, I just emailed people. It's like sometimes folk just overcomplicate things. It's just phone and ask. The worst that can happen is they say, no, listen, we're fine now, I'll just tell you to fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, so even in today's world, there's still, I think, a place for, whether it's job hunting, whether it's trying to get your business off the ground, or just trying to get a hold of somebody, just phone, message, email.
Great story on that.
Like,
so think back then, somebody using a phone was technology, right? Because people didn't use the phone to get jobs back in 1989. That's not how it worked. You had to go walk down and you'd hand in CVs to companies, or it was somebody you knew, or you get through your careers office. That's kind of how it worked then. So nowadays, when people come to me and say, oh, you don't really want to get into such, no, what I say to them, go make yourself a cracking video. Sell yourself on a video, who you are, what you want to do, your ideal perfect job. Stick it on LinkedIn. I says, I'll guarantee you'll get a mass amount of people actually offering you a position because you're doing something different. And that's really it. Don't complicate it. Just think, okay, what's the best platform for me to go and get clients, or me to start my business? And then lift up the phone, send an email, don't be frightened to just go for it.
Just take action of some sort.
Take action. That's it.
All right, so your budding apprentice electrician career commenced, and how long did that last? Were you in that for a while?
I was in it till I was 22, so I got my time served. I was working for Weir McQuiston, which were an absolute brilliant company. What I found was when we went to college, a lot of the other sparks we were talking to, they only specialised in something like house rewires or alarms or something. But when we were in McQuiston, they did everything. So I learned how to do, fire alarm systems, alarm systems, house bashing, heavy industrial. So you literally got a shot at everything. So it was a really good grounding for me. But I remember I was 21. This is another wee turning point, right, in my career. I was 21 and we were working on the Caledonian University, Glasgow Cali University, and we were doing a big refurb. And I remember it was around November time. And I was the head spark, so I was basically the drawings and getting out the jobs in the morning. I was quite young for it, but obviously I'd worked hard, and I've always had that mindset of just get your head down, get your shit done. Nobody's going to do it for you. You need to do it. You want to be the best. You've got to put in all the effort. That's kind of my mindset. And I remember sitting on the building site and I'm watching these guys in their 30s and 40s, me in my 50s now, and they're coming in and they looked miserable, right? And they're just, on the Monday morning, and they'd been pushed at the weekend, and they just looked miserable. And I thought, I can't see me doing this for the rest of my life. That way. Yeah. And that spurred me on to think, okay, I need to do something about this. So I signed up to go back to college.
Right, brilliant. And do you think that's because we see that in our industry with electricians, that you always hear the phrase "get off the tools." Like it's as if you don't want to be on the tools all your life. You need to try and get off them, and you maybe see a bit more of that in your current business with mentoring people to step away. Do you think that's a problem that some people just never really get over if they want to get off the tools?
There's a place for everything. Some people just want to be on the tools, right? Some people, that's their thing, right? And that's all right. If you're a business owner and you want to stay in the tools, there's a problem, right? Because you're never going to grow your business while you're on the tools. That's just a fact. There's nobody really, in my opinion, can really argue with that. So if you're a business owner and you're looking to grow and develop your business, you need to get off the tools. It's not up for debate. On and in the business scenario. So that's not up for debate. So that's a definite. But if you're somebody who just likes being a sparky or a joiner, let's be honest, plumbers, joiners, sparkies, they make good dough, right? It's middle class nowadays. Any construction job really, you're kind of into the middle class kind of salary bracket.
I think that's sometimes the challenge with the old after tools, is that there's almost an interim between them leaving that sole trader mindset to get into a point where they're like managing a business as an interim where they often earn a bit less. So you're always grappling with that whole like, well, why would I do that and earn less money if I could just stay in the tools? Well, you can't grow your business without taking that step, I know, but I don't want to lose money in the short term. I think that's what stops a lot of them, is just a bit of short term thinking.
And that's where vision comes into the picture. If you don't have a really clear vision, listen, see the way I look at it, for every success in life there's a risk and a reward, right? And you've got to be willing to take this absolute shit. Listen, see, when I started up this new, I know we will get to that, but see, when I started up this new business, we're 7 years in now, I mean, I didn't know I was putting food on the table some weeks. I had to put my car up for sale. I mean, the first 3 years was horrendous. I would have said, most, other than entrepreneurs who get it, most people would have packed in, because I could have went away back to making, a couple of $100,000 a year in the oil and gas industry, like that. But I had a vision, and I knew that it was going to be painful, but I also knew what it was going to look like if I just kept going, that way.
Yeah, and
well, that's the magic.
And that one moment when you were 21 and you looked about and you seen all these miserable gloom faces, do you think that was the first time in your head where you actually just something happened there where you thought,
aye,
right, I need to start thinking bigger?
Aye, 100%. 100%. It was one of those moments. I think I mentioned to you, I've got a book called Success and Excuses that I've been released, and it's all the moments. Excuses are, well, back to college, I'm making good money. Excuses, back on the tools. Success, think outside the box, think a bit different, take the risks, keep moving forward. Aye, you're gonna hit shit, you're gonna fail. I mean, I've probably failed. I know you've probably heard this 1,000 times. I have failed more times than most people. I have hit brick wall after brick wall after brick wall that would end a lot of people just go, I'm not doing this any longer. But you need to have that grit and determination to just say, you know what? What's the alternative? There's a reason why I didn't want to be on the tools. There was a reason why I left oil and gas. There was a reason why you do all these things. And always, that's your why, I suppose. I don't want to be corny, but that's your why. Make sure you've got that crystal bloody clear why you're doing it, because that's what you need when the shit is hitting the fan, when you don't have money to pay the mortgage, when you're struggling with car loans and you're just going, how am I going to do this?
Aye.
I have a wee saying, right? It's in the want to that you find the how to. If you want something enough, you will find a way. Simple.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And you mentioned oil and gas, and then obviously we'll get on to what you're doing now, right? But there was a wee snippet there about going back to college. Is this how you get into oil and gas, and talk us through that wee
No.
No.
Okay, so that's another good story. So I actually moved from Sparky to electrical engineering.
Right,
so I did an HNC called Mechanical Electronic Engineering, or Mechatronics, which allowed me to enter the semi-fab industry with the microchips. They make the microchips. So I worked for a company called Intel.
Oh yeah.
Right,
so another moment, right? So the Central Hotel in Glasgow, at the train station.
Yeah.
So I'd seen an ad that Intel, they were looking for jobs in Ireland to work in the semi-fab, and I was working up in Livingston NEC for Johnston Controls as a electronics engineer. And I seen an ad and I thought, I'm going to pop along to that. I think it was a Saturday afternoon or something. So jumps in a car, goes into Glasgow, and this was 1994, 95-ish, and went along to it was like they'd all booths and all that, and it was doing interviews literally there and then, hand in the CV, had a quick chat. So I was talking to this guy from Glasgow who was living in Ireland, and I had my CV, and he's a Sparky, same as me, and he really got on, and he read my CV and he's like, you're a really good candidate for this job. He literally says to me, look, can you come and meet us tomorrow? We're here tomorrow. We're in, met him tomorrow. They did the interview in the hotel. So CV on the Saturday. On the Sunday, we're in for an interview, and they offered me the job there and then. Right. But it meant moving to Ireland.
Right, okay.
So I packed up my shit, as you do, success or excuses.
Right.
So I packed up my shit, because I could maybe maybe not the right time for me, and blah, no. So literally packed up, moved to, I was actually living in County Kildare, right next to Dublin.
Right, okay, aye.
Packed up my shit, away I went, bought a flat in Ireland, and did that for about 18 months, and I hated it.
That was going to be my next question. How did you like it?
I loved Dublin.
Right.
But I hated the job because I was a design engineer, and we had I don't know if you ever heard of the clean room environment. So
Yeah.
you be a big white suit and mask and all that. So you're completely covered, and it's 4 shifts. So you're doing 4 nights on,
right, okay,
4 nights off, 4 nights on, 4 nights off. So I was doing it, and I absolutely hated it. Right now, I've got a thing called shit bucket principles. Right, 2 buckets. Right. Good shit and bad shit. See, when the good shit, the bad shit overweighs the good shit, it's time to empty the bucket and move on. That's how I live my life, right, with the shit bucket principle.
Right.
Once
I like
that bad
that.
shit gets too much, tip it out and move on. So this is how we get into oil and gas, by the way. So I decided I had enough. Went to my boss, the Scottish guy, and said, "Look, mate, this just isn't for me. I can't do it." Because a lot of the guys were married and they had kids there, and I was there as a single guy, and it was fun. But Dublin was expensive, you know, and I felt like, even though I didn't enjoy the job, even trying to enjoy yourself, right? So it was more like I was working to live rather than living to work, you know, or is that the wrong way around? I just didn't feel like I felt like my life was on hold, and it was shite. It's not me. And I put my CV online, packed up, sold the flat, packed up, and into a van, and I hired a van out of Glasgow, emptied the shit out, and that was me. So when I got back, I started up as a sparky myself, so just to bring in some cash, and I did that for a couple of months, and a company called Baker Hughes phoned me and says, "Look, we got your CV online, we're really interested in talking to you. Could you come along for an interview at the Thistle Hotel in Glasgow, which is now the Doubletree Hilton?"
Yep.
Right? So it was the Thistle Hotel then. And this was in 1998. And it was in December. And I had literally come back in October. So October, November, December. Now I didn't know who Baker Hughes was. So gets online.
Massive
gets online, and I'm like, whoa, this looks pretty good. But I had no idea what the job was for. Just Baker Hughes. So he turns up at the hotel, went in reception. She said, "Hey, just sit there, the guys will come out and get you." So they took me into a hotel room, a suite, and they had a TV and all that all set up. And they says, "Look, we're going to play a video. After the video, can you let me know if there's anything that on the video that you know about, that you can talk about, blah, 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 blah."
God, that would be doing well nowadays, eh? Turn up to a hotel for an interview. I just come into this hotel room.
What's happening here? So they plays the video, and luckily it was all about centrifugal systems, but I'd studied in my mechatronics.
Right.
So as soon as the video finished, I was like, oh, blah, blah, and I'm chatting away, and I'm saying about this and that, and we're having this really in-depth discussion about centrifugal systems and electrical drives and variable speed drives and all this stuff, and the guy's like, "Job's yours." Like, "Guy, it's yours." He says, "I just need to pass a medical now." And I'm like, "Oh shit, what are they going to ask me in this medical?" That's another story. As I said, when I was younger, it was a bit of a tearaway. But anyways, passed the medical, and I started with Baker Hughes in January of 1999.
Right,
and that was my career in oil and gas
kicked off.
kicked
That's how you
off.
get into oil and gas?
I was an engineer. I was a commission engineer.
Right,
So I
brilliant.
literally travelled. I travelled all over the world. I mean, I've lived in, I think, every continent in the
Spent
planet.
a good bit of time in the Middle East, eh?
22 years outside of the UK in total.
Wow.
Right, okay.
And was and so 22 years in oil and gas outside the UK, and talk about that sort of career. How, as I said, my dad was in the industry, oil gas. He worked with Halliburton.
Yeah, I used to work with him as well.
Yeah. I know it quite well. But what was your opinion of that sort of career? What did you?
I absolutely loved it.
Right.
The reason I loved it is because the company was so vast. If you wanted to grow your career, there was nothing to stop you, other than you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first few years I thought I was Tom Cruise jet setting all over the world. You know, I was literally on a night out in Glasgow, and the phone going, "Oh, you're going to Congo tomorrow." Aye, no worries. Went back home and packed my bags, and you'd fly down to London, a guy would come and meet you with an envelope with your passports and visas and all that shit. And it was the first 3-4 years was mind blowing. It was fantastic. Africa, Australia, Lithuania, And then I got offered the opportunity to go to Yemen, which will come into my story and offer. My wife's originally for Yemen.
Right. Okay.
So I got the opportunity to go to Yemen on a rotation. So it was 5 weeks on, 5 weeks off as a commissioned engineer. And what I used to do on my 5 weeks off, I loved money, right? Just putting it out there, I like money. And so my 5 weeks off, I get bored. I mean, as I said to you right at the start, my mind is, anybody who knows, I'm ants in your pants, James, right? I've got to be busy. So I would phone the office up after a week home and say, listen, if you get any jobs, just give me a shout. Oh, we've got a job in such and such. Send me there. So I used to go work on my time off. And I get sent to Oman. So this is how the kind of Middle East really kicked off. I get sent to Oman.
And what year were you over there, roughly?
Oman was 2002.
So it's obviously there was something quite big going on in the Middle East around about that time as well, actually, just thinking about it.
Aye. Nobody really wanted to go, let's be honest. But I'll tell you, there's another really good part of that and all story. So anyway, and this is good once we go in a few years. So ended up in Oman. It was somebody had hurt their back, so it was playing golf. So one of the engineers had hurt his back, so he couldn't go on his rotations. They said, look, can you go out and support them? And I was like, what about my job in Yemen? Don't worry, because it was the country manager actually looked after Oman and Yemen.
Right.
He says, don't worry about the Yemen, we've got that covered, but we really need somebody in Oman. I said, any worries, I'll go and I'll cover. So for a couple of trips, I went out and covered, and they said, look, we really want you to stay here. How do you fancy, kind of moving to Oman? And I thought, fancy that, all right. I don't know if you've ever been in Oman. It is stunning. Right? It's a beautiful, beautiful
I've never
country.
been anywhere in the Middle East.
It's one of the nicest countries in the Middle East by far.
Right.
In terms of proper Middle East, and it's so friendly, and it's just a cool place. So I ended up in Oman, and I was doing that for 3 years, and I wanted to get promoted, right? And I'm, as I said to you before, I'm very driven. I always, I want to be the best. I want to try harder. What's my next move? I'm bored now. I've been doing this for 3 years. I need a move. And I kept getting we'll find something for you. And this went on and on and on and on. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to move. They're not moving me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here for the next 15 years, So I resigned, believe it or not. And I had a job though when I resigned. So I'd been headhunted for the country manager job in China with a company called Wood Group.
Right, okay, yeah.
Right, Wood Group ESP. And so I'd already been offered this position. So I resigned, packed all my gear, left Oman, back to Glasgow. The Wood Group flew me to Hong Kong so I was in Hong Kong for 5 wined and dined and all that in Hong Kong, and then we never flew me into China. We get the boat to Shenzhen, because it was just a half an hour boat into Shenzhen for Hong Kong. Showed me my office, the deal I was going to get. Showed me around about Hong Kong China for a few days, back into Hong Kong. And when I was there in the interview stage, my boss, a guy called Bernie Fay, had phoned me. He says, James, don't want you to resign. Can you come back to Oman for a couple of trips? I've got a new position for you. And I said, absolutely no, no way. If I come back to Oman, I says, I'm actually in China right now. I says, I've been offered the country manager job with Wood Group ESP, and I'm going to take the job. He says, James, do not accept the job. I've got a job for you. And I says, right, well, when you come with something concrete. So anyway, gets back to Glasgow, phone goes, right, you've definitely got a job. You're going to Bahrain. We don't know what the job is yet, but you're going to be the kind of manager. It's a white canvas. You get to create your own blah, blah, blah. No worries, but we need you back in Oman. I said, absolutely not. I said, it's Bahrain or it's China. You tell me. And he said, right, okay, it's Bahrain. So a couple of weeks later, flew me to Bahrain, and that was where I started my next chapter. Still with Baker Hughes. Still with Baker Hughes. And that ended, Bahrain job ended up being country manager for Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and Kuwait.
Right.
So,
okay.
And that was a big.
So were you happy with the call then to stick with them?
I was very happy with the call. Again, a massive turning point in my career was that role.
And because what age would you have been around about then?
And I was about 32, 33.
32, so you're pretty much the same age as me now, right? And I don't know how I would have had the guts to go, right, right now, tell me what's happening, or I'm away. So how did you have that confidence in yourself to do that?
I knew my own abilities. See, once you make a name for yourself, it's like in any industry, right? See, when people get to know who you are and they get to know, like, I was known for how good I was at electrical and electronic systems, right? That was my forte, right? I was really good because I always looked at every problem as, well, why would I need to get somebody else in to fix it? If I just learn, then surely I can do that. So that was my mindset. I always just had that, I'll learn it. You know, if I don't know, I'll learn. That's kind of how I've always rolled. I think that's really it. I just knew my own worth.
Right.
I just knew that I'll work out, because I've been through a hell of a lot more shit than having to choose between jobs, you know, that way.
Aye. I'm chuckling away here internally, just thinking about a bonny wee guy from Newmains shooting about fucking Bahrain, China.
I know, man.
Just causing it more than anything else, as we would say in Glasgow. So just getting on to, like, we talk a lot about, you know, the title of the podcast is risking it all, right? So you've not told us what you were earning at that point, but I assume it was a pretty penny, especially operating
shitload of money, aye.
A country manager looking after several different regions. And we've spoke a lot in this podcast about you know, pulling that ripcord and the safety blanket away of salary, holidays, yada yada yada, to risk it all and go it on your own. So talk to us a bit about, when did that itch start to become a bit real? When did you have that fire inside you where you thought, I don't know if I'm cut out for more here? Like, when were they thoughts starting to rip back about in your head?
It happened by default. It wasn't a conscious decision of, I want to get in my own. I was pretty lucky, right? And I said, I don't really believe in luck, if I'm really honest with you, but it's a good way to, I was pretty lucky. In other words, I worked for a company who gave me opportunities, right? Or who allowed you opportunities should you wish to grasp them, right? And I lied qualifications into some of the roles, so I'm not going to lie, because I thought, well, the only reason he can do it is because he's got more knowledge, but not because he's any cleverer than me. You know, so I had a big vision of getting through that and growing in the organisation. And see, when people, this is a big thing, right? I was lucky, I had a manager, right, a guy called Alistair Sheikh. He was an Aberdonian, and he was the first person, other than my dad, who really believed in me, right? He seen something in me that even I didn't really see, because I didn't really know then. I was still quite young, you know. In your mid-30s, I'm still daft in the head sometimes, and all, you know. And he seen something in me, and he really, you know, he would say something and say, "You don't realise how good you are," you know. And he would really push me, and it's a really good story, right, how I ended up in that position. So I remember we had a huge contract with Saudi Aramco, right, and it was losing money. Right, I inherited this contract, and it was losing money because of the terms and conditions of the contract. And I was on we'll call it a global call, right? So every October you do your call for the year, so your financial plan for the year. So we're on this global call, and they've got CEO of Baker Hughes, you know, a $27 billion company, and you've got the country VPs and everything on this call. And I remember when it was my turn to talk, and they were talking about, you know, the business, you know, and we've got this contract that's losing money, and, you know, how are we going to handle it? And I basically turned on like, well, I really don't know, but I'll get the T's and C's changed. Leave it with me. And our senior VP, a guy called Khaled, now turned around and says to me, "James, I've worked with and alongside Saudi Aramco for over 25 years. They have never, ever changed the T's and C's of contract. You're pissing against the wind." And there's this wee Scottish guy from Newmains going, "I'm telling you, right, I'll get the T's and C's changed." And sure enough, I got the T's and C's changed the first time ever. That was the climbing board, the trampoline in my career, because people are like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. And then what happened after that, within a year, right, I told you I got promoted, and I was, you know, I think it was like nearly an $800 million business I was looking after. Now, I knew nothing about finance. Mm-hmm. I knew nothing about people. I had to learn all this. I never went to fancy training courses, right, to learn this stuff. I had to learn it myself. And it came in, we're having a dinner celebrating the year, so we had a fantastic year. I think we'd increased our revenue by like 25%, and our profitability went up for like 19% operating profit to about 25. I know my numbers do. Just saying. About 25% operating. So we had a really great year for the region, and he'd come in and we were having this big dinner, and Cal had come up and tapped me on the shoulder and he says, by the way, you're moving to Dubai. And he walked away. This is a senior VP.
Yeah.
And he walked away, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm what? So I went over to my boss, who was the VP for Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and I said to Alistair, I was like, Cal just told me I'm moving to Dubai, and he says, he's taking you to Dubai. He wants to mentor you over in Dubai. And I'm like, I'm not going to Dubai. I've got too much to do here. I'm too busy. Blah, blah, blah. And turns out I went to Dubai, right? Because it was, no, you're coming to Dubai, end of. That was a turning point.
Right.
That was a spark. They took me out of operations and moved me into a role called Career Development and Talent Manager, HR. And I'm thinking, what the hell do I know about HR? Mm-hmm. What do I know about talent development and people development? I'm a operations guy. I'm a Sparky man. I don't know this stuff.
Sparky for Newmains.
Sparky for Newmains. Wow. I mean, I absolutely loved it. It was like your calling. Like I found that thing that I loved, you know, just so much. And the reason I loved it is I was an operations guy who was that used to HR putting shit onto you and knew the process and knew this, knew that. And I thought, I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I started visiting the countries and sitting down with the operations man and saying, how can we make this work for you? You tell me how to do it. So we had KPIs for the globe, right, or global KPIs for talent development and career. Now we were 7th out of 9, right? So we're nearly the second worst in the whole globe. I was in the row 6 months and we were number 1 because I went down and I sat with the guys and said, tell me how it's not working. What can I do to help you? And all I did is I'd say to them, look, I'm not asking you to do it. Identify a high potential employee. Make it part of their bonus structure. I'll train them. They own it. Mm-hmm. And I went to every single country and every product line. I did exactly the same. And guess what? It was like magic. It was like absolute magic. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm good at this shit. That was a turning point. Now, I was in that role for 2 years. And then Khaled came to my office, stuck his head round the door and said, you're moving back to operations. You're now the country director for Iraq. And I'm like, this is $1 billion business. And I'm going, oh, no. I really didn't want to go back to operations because this was... I just knew this helping people was just wow. Yeah. Right? It was just wow.
And what do you think he's seen in you at that time? Because obviously you hadn't seen it at that point, but this person had thought, I'm going to pluck this high performing individual and put him into something completely new. What do you think he done that for? He obviously knew something that you didn't, but
I would say, looking back now, what he seen was I actually was genuinely willing to invest my time in other people, whether it was operations, whether it was sales. I was genuinely willing to give them my time, to sit down, to talk to them, to understand them. Sometimes, by the way, for the very first time in their career, that somebody had actually sat down and said, so tell me, why are you here? What's driving you? What is it that floats you? Forget about work. What floats your boat? Where do you want to be in 5 years? See if I can help you get there. Will you put in the effort to get there? Oh, absolutely. Right, let's start with there. And I would just sit down and then I would say, right, and we'd put a plan, how they're going to grow their career. Some people done nothing with it. A lot of them, for the first time in their life, had seen light at the end of the tunnel. Somebody was giving a shit. Somebody cared. That was what they seen. I've always been able to cut through the bullshit. I mean, you can hear the way I talk. I mean, in Dubai, I spoke slightly different, you know, than I'm doing today because I'm a used boys, you know. I can sit in a boardroom with a CEO at, you know, $100 billion company and I can talk the talk, or I can go into a building site and sit with guys who are on the tools and I can talk the talk. That's a gift. Yeah. I've got that gift. I don't know how or where, or if it's just learned experiences.
It's Newmains.
It's Newmains, man. It's wishy high. You know, I've got that. And see, when he moved me back into operations, I was absolutely miserable. I had 3 or 4 different careers in a space of 3 or 4 years. So I went to Iraq. I was actually living in Kurdistan and so I had a house in Dubai, but I was living 50-50 in Kurdistan.
So was this still during the Iraqi war?
So this was when the ISIS kicked in. So this was 2013, 2014.
Right.
So the ISIS war started. So that was my sign to get out. So I get headhunted with a company called Canadian Advance.
I think your philosophy just come back to your shit bucket philosophy.
Shit bucket. Shit bucket. It's total shit bucket. That's it. Ship is full, empty out, move on.
ISIS war starting, the bucket's that's coming right early top, isn't it?
So I flew into Dubai, and it was a Scottish girl, right, who she was a recruitment girl, and she interviewed me. She basically said, "Oh, this is your job." Sat down with the senior VP of this company, and they basically offered me a job there and then. Moved back to Dubai. A signing on bonus, right? Believe it or not, 150 grand, right? And I'm like, yeah, dancer. Oh, party. So 150 grand literally in my bank the day I started with them as a signing on bonus. I will not tell you do you want me to tell you the salary? I was on 250 grand a year, right? Salary. In Dubai, tax free.
Yeah.
So it was pretty nice. I was miserable, man. I was absolutely miserable. And I thought, I can't do this. Halliburton came calling, headhunted, and asked me to move to Malaysia.
Right.
So I moved to Malaysia as a regional director, thinking maybe it's just a job. You know, I missed that role. I missed it, right? Then the minute you said that, what was that thing? I just knew I was so unhappy. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. I had fancy houses, driving fancy cars, was going, 3-4 holidays a year, 5-star, flying business class. In anybody's eyes, I was living the dream. In my eyes, it was a fucking nightmare, right? I just wasn't happy. And I remember in Malaysia, I was just miserable, man. And Malaysia, by the way, is an incredible country, right? Probably one of the nicest countries I've ever been in my life. The people, the food, the weather, it's just beautiful. But I was so miserable. Then Weatherford came calling, headhunted. I went back to Dubai, so I came back to Dubai and thought, that's it, maybe it's Dubai, or maybe I missed Dubai. I was just miserable, and I'd say to my wife, look, Enas, who's originally Yemen, I met in Dubai, listen, I'm really, really not happy. She knew I was miserable, man. I was drinking too much. I mean, I'm a really fit guy. I like going to the gym and I like running. I've ran, 3 or 4 marathons, and I gave it all up. I was just miserable. And I says to her, I want to start my own training development company up. And she says, but do you know about training development? I says, I don't. Does it matter? I says, what matters is I know what people need. I know what people want. I think I'm a great leader. And if I can just take some of what I've learned over the last 20, 30 years, and I can box that, because I've been on leadership courses, I've sent my staff on leadership courses, most of them are shit. Right? You go on the course, you get a fancy manual, you get back to off on the Monday, you stick it on the shelf, and you get back to your same old habits. Nothing changes. I didn't want to have that. I wanted to build a company that when people came along, they remembered you forever. They'll always remember. I remember when I went on that Power Within course. Man, what did that? I wanted them people to have that feeling every time they came on one of my courses, and
that's how you get there.
That was how it started. That's how the Power Within came about. Packed our bags back to the UK. I actually came back way Weatherford, right? So Weatherford actually offered me a new position because I told them I didn't want to be in operations. I wanted to go back to talent development. They said, luckily enough, we've got a director's role in Switzerland. So I did the interview. They said, right, so I was moving to Switzerland, so packed our stuff up in Dubai, on a ship, headed over to the UK, right, packed our stuff up.
The amount of times that you says I had to just pack my shit up.
Aye. So we'd started looking for a house. We'd identified a couple of houses in Switzerland, flew to the UK, and when I was in the UK, like, oh, you're not moving to Switzerland, I know. It's going to be, I'm thinking, here we go, a whole shit bucket, but here we go again. Anyway, wait to hear this, right? This is a right kicker now. In the UK, I wasn't on the 250 grand salary. I was on 120 grand based in Switzerland. And 21st of December 2016, I got a phone call. I was building a team, so I was building a team for Germany and all the Europe. So I was building my team. So that was the purpose of going to the UK, was to start building the team. And I was going to be based in the headquarters in Switzerland. And I got a phone call headed down to because all the HR were on the same side of the building in Aberdeen. Headed down, walked into the HR director's office, and he says, by the way, James, we're going to have to let you go.
Oh, God.
21st December 2016, man. And I'm like, you're a fucking dancer. I had a 3-year plan. It was no 3-month plan. Because they'd give me 3 months' salary, let me stay in the flat that they'd give us a house in Aberdeen. Phoned the wife up and said, right, the plan is now starting today. Never told my family. We had Christmas, never told my family a bloody thing. Back up to Aberdeen in January, booked a holiday to Tenerife for a month, and when we were in Tenerife, we come up with a name, business plan, get back, landed back in Aberdeen on the 12th of February 2017 and set up the company.
That was you?
That was it. Officially, 15th of February was official. The Power Within was born.
How did you come up with the name? Because I like the name, but it's a cracking.
So we were on holiday. We're trying to come up with all fancy names like in Gaelic and Latin, and that's just no me, right? And I kept saying it like we've all got the power within us. How do I get that out? How do I get people to understand that we're all born, right, to be successful? Some of us just choose not to be, right? It's a choice, right? So I'm going to put it out there. It's a choice, right? And I kept saying the power. My wife said to me, well, why don't you just call it the power within? I'm like, it's a bit corny. She's like, no. That's how the name came about, the power within. Because I kept saying it now and again about power within, but she's like, just call it the power within.
Should have went for the power of the shit bucket.
I'm not sure how that would look in marketing and that, you know.
Did you get a decent logo out of that?
By the way, our logo's me and my wife's face. See the logo?
Right,
It's me and my wife's face.
So you're off and running.
Yep. I don't know about off and running, but
you've got a logo, which is often all you need to get going. So you've got a business. First couple of years, often the hardest. Talk to us a bit about the first couple of years for you and the missus and the newly formed business.
Right, well, remember I had never done training and development in my life. I'd only ever helped people before, but development plans. I'd never actually ran a training and development course. I'd never built a course. I'd done nothing. So this was brand new. And I'd been outside the UK for 20 odd years. So I didn't know. So the very first thing I did was network. I remember, right, my very first networking event was in the Aberdeen Sports Centre. And I went along this networking event and I walked up the stairs and I seen everybody in this room and I was shiting myself, right? And I'm a very confident guy. I was shiting myself. I really didn't want to get into that room. And I walked back down the stairs and I walked about for 5 and I said, James, get a grip, fucking knob. Get a grip, man. Get up. Nobody's going to bite you, man. So I went up the stairs and I walked right in. I just looked for a group of people. I walked right in and went, all right, how you doing? I'm James. And that was my networking started. And I serial networked. Because I wanted to understand, what does businesses need? Like, how can I help people who don't even know what they need? Right? What is it people are struggling with? Now, bearing in mind, every time I used to come back to you, I've got a lot of mates that are sparkies and they're, you know, in the electrical industry, in small companies, and every time I'd come back it'd be the same shit I'd hear all the time. Oh, poor me, mindset, just problems. And that was kind of the spark. I thought, if I find out, if I can find a theme, I could probably create something. So as I was going to, by the way, we were still at Aberdeen, then we moved back to Glasgow. After 3 months up in Aberdeen, we moved back to Glasgow. And we started networking in Glasgow, and people, most small business owners went at these networking events, it was always the same thing. First of all, they were never grown, right? They were their own worst time. People would say, oh, I'm terrible at sales, or I hate sales people, it's dead salesy. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to sell it, you're not going to be in business very long. So I'm taking this in like a sponge, right? And I'd come away with books and notes, and I went in to sell anything. I came back away with books and notes, and I was going through a lot of self-development myself, in every development course I could. I mean, I spent a fortune on self-development myself during this process. Our very first course we ran was November 2017. So I took that whole time to really understand network. Anytime somebody needed somebody to talk, I'll talk. So I would present at every event I could. I would talk. Because I thought, I have to build this stuff up. I've never done this before. And my very first course was called How is people going to ever lead a business or build a business if they've no self-development? So my first ever training course was called Self-Leadership Development. And that was released in November of 2017. And that was a catalyst.
That was when you kicked on for
that was the very first course.
And I think as you were talking about that initial experience, it made me think. I worked as a consultant for a few years, and would you say one of the probably the most important things you can do is just listen?
100%.
Just listen to people, especially if you're trying to help them for development, leadership, new business. So a lot of times we see it in marketing, right? A lot of marketing you see these days is very much, you're listening to me, no the other way about, and that can be effective at certain points. But it sounds like listening and taking it on at the start. Probably, would you say that was a big, important step for you?
Aye. So most people listen to reply. See, if you just shut up and just listen to what people have got to say, you hear what the real problems are. You can hear, like I used to blow me away, right, when I used to listen to other business owners and the way that they would talk about themselves and their business, and I used to be like, man, they're never going to make it. Like, it was so self-fulfilling prophecy, why things are not going to work and how tough life is, and I'm like, my God, man, you really need to get a grip. And I'd never run a business. I had a career my whole life. I've never, I'd never, done this before. And I used to, so I was quite lucky. I suppose I've seen it through a different set of lenses, and I just really understood what it is people needed. People needed to start believing in their own themselves. Get rid of the bullshit story and start believing in themselves. Again, I'm going to go back to success or excuses, right? The amount of, next time you're ever at an event or anything, right, listen to the amount of excuses that you hear people come up with. It's excuse after excuse after excuse, and I'm just like,
what the
hell, man? What the hell? Couldn't them make a wee note?
We'll let you know when we come in.
What the hell?
Well, do you know, something else you said earlier really struck a chord to me, probably because to a certain extent we sell to the same target audience, but trades guys in particular, so as I mentioned before the podcast, we primarily work with solar owners, and the line that you spoke about like, I'm just a tradie, I'm not a sales guy, I don't like doing sales. They bring us on board as an outsourced marketing function, but you end up being a sales consultant as well, because you flood them with leads. Do you know, that way the marketing's nice and effective. You're maybe a month in and we've not quite got any of the line yet, and you're like, how is that fucking possible? That's harder to achieve than it would be to just luck out and get a sale. So then you start digging into it, and
they're no following up.
How quickly are you phoning them? Maybe a couple of days. Right, well, we're setting ourselves up to fail from the off. So you end up operating in this hybrid role, like, you've brought us in to do marketing, but let's have a blather about sales here. But we hear that line a lot. I just love being a trades guy. Sales is often spoke about as a necessary evil in some of the businesses, but I'm with you as a sales guy or somebody that's worked in marketing and sales forever. I just think you just need to flip your mindset. You do, because I hate to reference him, to be honest, just because I'm not a massive fan. I get why he does well, but Joseph Valenti, I seen a couple of bits of his content, and he talks a lot about some of the stuff we've spoke about. You need to get yourself off the tools. The tools are a vehicle to deliver the service. What actually makes your business tick is marketing and sales.
If you're not marketing, you don't have a business.
You're fucked, basically. So it's interesting that despite people with such prominence pushing that and pushing it, you still do get trades guys that are like, sales are just a necessary evil. I hate it. I don't like it. Like, I often just think, get a job then. Just get a job as a spark, get a job as a joiner, and don't put yourself through the stress of like trying to be really good and passionate about something that you're not.
Listen, we work with loads and loads. We've got a thing called Business Growth Academy, right? The very first thing we teach is mindset. Then we talk about marketing. See the amount of tradespeople that say, I tried that Facebook marketing before and didn't really get much. Because you need to be consistent at it. Don't date once for 3 months, then date again for 3. See, unless you're, because a lot of people will see your ad, right? And they might not need you then, but they might need you in 6 months' time. So if you're not consistent with that marketing, so our marketing budget's huge, right? And most of it's in Facebook. Huge.
I've seen your ads.
We're huge, marketing budget on Facebook. I would rather spend 10 grand to make 50 grand than spend 5 grand to make 6 grand. I think marketing, good marketing, is so underestimated. It's mind blowing. Like, it absolutely blows me away. I say to some of the companies, if you can set aside a budget for 6 months, but a couple of grand a month or something for 6 months, and be consistent, I'll guarantee you, I'll put my house on it, you will grow your business by default.
Yeah,
you'll grow your business. Even if you're shite at sales, you'll grow your business.
we've learned in time to keep an eye out for the kind of, we call them red flags, but you see, you know, maybe a trades business that I call it agency hopping. They go, oh, I tried them for a month, it didn't work, and then I tried somebody else and that didn't work, and now I'm talking to you, and it's like.
But you know, I think there's some people out there though that are just shite at it as well. There's a lot. Listen, I've been doing it 7 years, right, and I've always been a massive believer in. I mean, I did main market myself initially. I've always been a big believer in, if you're no marketing, nobody knows you're there, right? But there's a lot of really bad marketing companies out there, particularly in the social media place. There's a lot of great companies, but there is a lot of absolutely horrendous companies as well.
We hear stories.
We hear horror stories.
There's loads of them.
You get into
been there, done it, bought the t-shirt.
You get into accounts and go, what the fuck is going on here? Like, who has been running this?
I think probably the one that we hear the most often, which is also the most concerning, is I gave my money to a marketing company and I didn't hear from them ever again.
Honestly,
we hear it all the time.
The amount of people that say, oh, we gave them $3,000 and then we tried to build it, we couldn't quite build it, so we just kind of moved on. I'm like, what? Like $3,000 just disappeared, nothing came. Like, how the fuck does that happen? I'm way on that point. There's, you know, again, we try and use that to our advantage, because a lot of, like, in inverted commas, agencies are maybe 21-year-old guys with a laptop in their mum's spare room calling themselves an agency. So
and by the way, that works sometimes. See if you've got a really low budget and you're really... I always look at there's horses for courses for everything, right? If you are struggling and you've only got 500 or 600 quid, the wee guy in his bedroom might be who you need, right? Because you've not got, you know, a couple of grand or whatever it is. You've not got that money. So I always say, like, just at least try it.
Yeah.
You know, at least go out there and try it. I mean, going back to November when we tried to run that very first course, the reason I knew I was onto something is because we had 5 paid clients and 5 free clients. Now, I've always done this with every new product or every new business, right? I always invite influential people, right, for free.
Yeah.
Because they've probably coming from backgrounds that have probably been on courses before, and that allows me to test if it works, right? Now, these 5 people, right, the very, very influential people, came on our course. One of them is a guy called Dr. Ian McRitchie, who is a multi-millionaire philanthropist. He's set up the MCR Pathways and all that. Don't know if you know that. It's a charity organisation.
Right.
Anyway, multi-millionaire philanthropist. He came on it, one of our courses. I'll not specifically talk about that. And see, when you've got these people going, oh my God, right, what you've created, James, is incredible. You're like, yes, market it.
Yeah.
And that was how I grew my business, market it. So I started that. Very first one was Doubletree Hilton in Bells Hill.
That was what it was.
That was my very first one, and we just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. Let me tell you about how I got into construction, right? Because I know we're running out of time, right? This is a really good story. So we're about a year and a half into the business, and we're still struggling, right? Because me and my wife didn't have jobs. We gave up, so both of us are in the company, you know, both co-founders. So it wasn't like I'm working and we've got an income so we can mess about. I like to call it fanning about, right? Trying to run a business. We were in, right? We had nothing else. We were all in. And I was a construction guy, so he was a joiner, was on one of the courses. And after the course, came up and said to me, James, look, what you've just talked about, it's a full 8-hour course, right? Full day. I really need your help. My business, you know, I'm turning over £1 million, but my profitability is shit, and I'm really getting in a bad place. I'm working 7 days a week, and I've got a young family. You know the story. I'm really struggling. Blah 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 blah. So anyway, sat down with him, and we kind of put a plan in place, and I started business coaching him. And then another construction company came, and guess what? Exactly the same problems. And then another construction came, and guess what? Another exactly the same problems. And I was sitting with my wife, man, like, every single of these companies, and one was a joinery, one was a roofing company, the other one was a small building company. And I'm saying to my wife, like, oh, exactly. She says, well, why don't you create a course for them? I said, Jen, I should. She said, why don't you do that? So that was the Business Growth Academy was born.
Right.
That was a game changer.
Yeah,
that was a catapult.
That was a game changer, because guess what? How many small construction companies are out there who are literally just keeping their head above the water, and all of a sudden you get somebody coming along saying, I can help you change that. Marketing, business mindset, business development, all the things that they don't. So they're really good at what they do. They're great joiners and great plumbers and great electricians, but they have got zero business skills, right? And you'll know you're in a business. The number one thing about building a really successful business isn't here. It's here. It's here. It's in this big 4 pound organ between our eyes. This is where it all works. And that was how the Business Growth Academy came about, and that was a game changer. That took us from 100 grand to 200 grand, and then the next step was I built the Motivational Intelligence Leadership course. So we're actually, our Business Growth Academy, which was our big seller, is now second, third, and our main seller now is our leadership programs. COVID kicked in, lost all our business, everything went away. We went fully digital. Guess what? Between March and August, we had doubled our turnover for the previous year. During COVID, because guess what? Everybody's at home. All the builders are at home. Everybody's at home. And then I thought, right, okay, I've got this time, I'll build a new programme. So we built a leadership programme for senior management this time, because I'm thinking, if I'm feeling this and every day, what's the senior management must be feeling like right now? So I went to the SQA and I said, I want to build a course. And they're like, well, you need to prove that it's different from everything else out there. And I said, well, of course it is, because I'm building it. It's not on off the shelf. So it took me 18 months to get this off the ground, and that is now by far our number one course. And then the offset of that was when I was running these courses. So we've now got 16 staff, right? And while I run these, what I do is I run them, I bring somebody else and I train them and I get to them to run. Right. Then the next course, then I build somebody up and then we start to get into business coaching, and I think we've got 86 live business coaching clients. We've trained over 1,000 businesses, small construction companies. We're now working with large companies, Vistry, Gilliard Homes, Redrow, so some of the really big boys we're working with now. And we have a programme called Women in Leadership. This is how it started. So I've run the programme, and there was like 8% men, 20% women. But the women were so engaged, and the quality of their work assignments, because it's a proper SQA, it's an executive diploma, so they've got to do assignments. The quality of their assignments were so much better than the guys. And I'm saying to my wife, there's a theme here, right? I'm saying to my wife, no, this phenomenon, man. She says, well, why don't you build a course for them? So I built the Women in Construction Leadership course, and that's our number one seller. That course is filled to the brim.
That's the ad I seen on Facebook.
The Women in Construction one.
It's funny, see, I'm talking as you talk about your wife's involvement in your story, right? I think it sounds dead similar to your involvement when you listen to other people. She listens to you. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? She's doing what you do.
It's exactly it.
It's interesting. So she's got you kind of actioning some ideas you probably had tucked away.
And so my wife was originally, she was born a Muslim in Yemen. I met her in Dubai when she was a Muslim. That's a whole different story, because you can imagine Dubai, Muslim, anyway. We got over those hurdles, but she brings a completely different outlook. So I'm quite outgoing and very creative. She's much more risk averse, so she kind of reins me in. Thank God, because I made a lot of mistakes in the early years. By the way, quick one for you. See, in those early years, we were at a point, right, in those first 2 years, that I had to I put my car up for sale. See that buyanycar.com. I'd bought a brand new Mercedes when I came back, right out the wrapper, brand new cash. I've got this money, look at me. Well, it didn't last that long, I'll tell you, when you start a business, does it? I had to put my car up for sale. Now, I landed a $5,000 deal with a pharmaceutical company to run a training programme for them. So I ended up not having to sell it in it. But it's that, remember earlier we talked about that mindset, right? There's a lot of times when people will go, you know what, this is just too much, man. I don't know how I kind of keep going through this. But see, when you have that absolute clarity of why you're doing what you're doing and the purpose behind it. I know a lot of these words sound dead corner, right? But they fucking matter. They really, really matter. If you do not have a vision of what that looks like, and even I'd go as far as to even say an exit strategy, whether it's to pass on to your family or to sell in the future, these are the things that make a difference. Because when the shit's hitting the fan, you just know you'll dig deep and you'll get through it. You know you will.
So that's the single thing that stopped you from jumping back into the oil and gas industry then?
I've thought about it, by the way. There was a time right at the start of COVID, right, when I really thought about it. I really, really thought about it because it was tough. I mean, I was in tears, right? I was in tears, man, because we'd about 180 grand of business on the board, and it was literally, I'm no kidding you, it was like phone call, phone call, phone call, phone call, phone call. No, gone. And I'm like, what am I going to do?
Aye.
How am I going to put food on the table? Like, everything we'd built, and this is a true story, right? So we were out for a walk. Like, I was in tears, right? I was like, oh, everything we worked for, and we come back in and we've got a huge big goal board right in the office, and it's got all our business goals and everything. I mean, I'm a massive goal setter, right? You know, the way I look at it is if you don't know, if you've not got something to aim for, how the fuck do you know where you're going, right? So I'm a huge goal setter. And I looked at the board and I thought, I turned to my wife and I said, imagine we could just, everything we know, everything we've learned, and we just go fully digital. We just take everything and we just do business differently. I jumped up, took a photo of the goal board. I jumped up, I wiped it clean and said, right, let's set a new set of goals. And we literally, I don't know if you've ever heard the Upwork and all that.
Yeah.
We literally went to Upwork. We emptied the bank. We get 10 grand off North Lanarkshire Council for the COVID thing. We got a 14 grand bounce back loan, and we emptied the bank and we went fully digital. We went everything, videos, everything. We were running courses, right? And June, July, I was running courses to Saudi Arabia, to a company in Saudi. I was running courses to Iraq. I was running courses to Dubai. I was running courses all the way. I mean, the money was just flooding, and I'm like, this is fucking brilliant. This is, why have I waited so long?
But again, that's just a prime example of how you got your tears out the way, and then you just write action.
Success or excuses, man. Success or excuses.
You can do one of two things, eh? You can sit and feel sorry for yourself and go, oh God, why is this happening to me?
Stick your head in the sand.
Just
That's
go
what a lot of
on
people
with
did
it
at COVID,
and take
wasn't it?
action and get sorted into it.
Aye.
So listen, conscious of time, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk to us a bit about what the next kind of 3 to 5 years holds for your business. But just before I do, I mentioned him earlier, right, and I'll take a bit of a risk in asking you, are you the Joseph Valenti of Newmains?
I'm a fuck. By the way, I met Joseph. I was at an award ceremony last year and I met him, and he's exactly the same in real life.
Is he?
His teeth are I mean, they're like that light up there. I mean, he just looks fake. He's like one of the caricature characters, right? By the way, I'm no slagging you, Joseph, right? You're an alright guy. And we kind of talked about doing business together, but nothing materialised. I don't want to be that guy. I've done that. I've done my time and been out there and, oh, look at me, fucking yay. I did all that at the start. I keep saying to my own team, you know, they're 16, and I keep saying, I want you to take the lead, but I'm still having to take the lead. I want somebody to come and take the lead. I don't want to be the face of the business all the time. You know, I really, really don't. Although I can do it, I honestly don't love it. Right, I really don't love it. I really want somebody else to be able to step up to the plate. So hopefully somebody in the team, or maybe if somebody we bring on can be the face. But I don't want to be that guy. No.
Right. Okay. Well, let's segue into that then. Next 3 to 5 years, what's your bold goal? Where are you hoping to take the business?
So the plan is the next 3 to 5 years. So we're going to go employee owned in the next 2.5 to 3 years.
Right.
We're going to take the business to approximately between 7 and 9 million. We're going to have about 2.6 this year, so 24, 25. So the plan is double the revenue. So we've done it 4 years in a row. This will be our 5th year of doubling our revenue. So we're 1.2, just nearly short of 1.3 million there. It's double the revenue, and then go employee owned. So basically, go to the bank, let the employees take it in a kind of employee trust, and let the employees own the business. That's the plan.
Right, okay.
And take a big step back, bring in a CEO.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I still work 7 days a week, by the way. I'm still, even on holiday, I still set 2 hours every day. That's the difference, right? That's success. It's, are you willing to do the things that other people are not? That's what makes a difference.
What's you're the first guest that spoke about that. What's the thought process behind the whole employee-owned thing? I could make an educated guess at it, but I don't need to.
I've always said, right, how I've built my business is I don't want an employee, right? We build a team. We I know this is really counterproductive, but we're a family business. So everybody in our team is like family, right? My daughter works for the company. Everybody, I feel, we treat everybody like family members, right? See if one of my staff came to me in the morning and said, James, I'm in a serious hole. I need $5,000. No worries. $5,000, go and fix it. My car's broke down.
You better hope they're not listening.
Listen, I've done it. I've done it. We do it. We don't have a problem. I treat them like a family business, but at the end of the day, it's a business, right? And it's not about giving. They've got to give back, right? We ask a lot. I consider our business to be a high performing business, right? Everybody in our team has to step up to the plate, or I'm on their case, right? We expect a lot, but we give a lot, right? So go back to the why an employee owned the business, because there's two reasons. So the first reason is I want them to own a stake in what they've created, right? I want them to own it. I want them to own, because only when you own it do you really own it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, when it's yours, you've heard the saying, it's like my baby. Right, that's how me and my wife feel, right? It's our baby. And we've got a couple of employees, by the way, that act and think like that. In fact, we've got quite a lot of employees, to be fair. They actually don't. It's quite emotional and touching when you hear them say, this isn't a job to me. This is like a vacation in life. That's massive. That's massive, man. We've got 4 psychologists work for us. We're not just a training company that takes shit off the shelf. We build real value. Why would I hire psychologists? Because they know how the brain works. These are psychologists, by the way, at the top of their game. Have came from Heriot University and finished with honours degrees and things like that. So we're really serious about what we do. I want to give them some of that back. You've helped me build this, so you're entitled to that. Second point, tax efficient. The tax man doesn't get as much.
Makes sense.
I've taken a mental note. You've caught my attention.
So if you sell your business, right, to an investor, it costs you a lot more to pay of in tax. If you go through the employee owned, you pay a lot less tax. So you get to keep more of that to yourself. Right, that's another reason.
All right. And I think you're right. Like, it's clever in the sense that nothing quite motivates you in the way that having equity does. I don't think, like, there's nobody chatting my door in the morning saying, time to go up for work and get in and do what you do every day. You're just highly motivated because, and it's not even about short-term thinking, I wonder what I can earn this month. It's about what can I build in the next 10 years that really sets me, my family up for life. And I think it's clever, if you can emulate that across an entire organisation. They've got all the motivation in the world 100%, to keep doing a great job.
100%.
So
and they all know that, by the way. The staff all know that it's going to be employee owned. And I've actually explained how it works. Don't worry, you don't need your own money. You go to the bank buys the business for you. You take the profits out of the business every year to pay the bank back, just like a loan. So I've explained how it all works to them. So they're all on board. I wish we had loads of time because I've got so much shit I could tell you, man.
We've ran out of time and I feel like I've got a million questions.
Can I plug my book quickly?
Of course you can, yeah.
So I've just finished, right, I know we talked to us right at the start, I've just finished writing my book. It's called You Can Have Success or Excuses But Not Both. And it's my journey back at school. And I mean, because there's loads of things I haven't told you, right? I've been in trouble with the police and shit like that, right? And there's loads of things I haven't, but I wanted to put a book out there that tells it how it is, right? That it's not about making excuses in life, right? Everybody gets a choice. So it's that story. It's a real no holds barred, full of swearing, to a point. I've tried to keep it to a point, about what it takes, whether it's you're a career professional, you're setting up in business, or you just want to be a better husband, or whatever it is. It's a story about how you need to go your own fucking way. Stop making excuses. Everything happens. I look at like life happens for you, right? Not to you. And it's a story about that. It's a story about stop blaming the world, man. If look in the mirror, because that's who's to blame.
What's it called?
Success or Excuses But Not Both.
Success and
where
excuses
can you buy it?
Well, you can't buy it yet because the book's written, the cover's done. I'm now looking at the self-publishing route, so it should be available around July. But I'll be on social media. You know me, I'll be on social media.
Send us a link for it, and we'll get it across the pages. No, that sounds great. And that's the end of our.
Always the quickest hour of the week for us. We could have sat and spoke to you forever as always. But listen, thanks a million.
Pleasure.
I loved the energy more than anything else, mate. You've just got an infectious energy, and a mega interesting story. And I would imagine, like, I kept thinking of your wee dad there, the carpet fitter, and, you know, the high-flying jobs, and even some of the simple jobs that I've done. Some of my own family will go, that's like a made-up job. What is that you're doing? Does he grasp everything it is that you're doing, or is it just, he's away doing his own thing?
See, when I first did it, he was gutted because he loved to tell everybody his son lives in Dubai, and he's got a pool in his garden, and he drives fancy cars. So he loved the idea of success for me. When I gave it up and came back, right, he didn't get it. He kept saying, you know, I thought about going back, son. No. He's like, holy shit, man. His attitude now is, see if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. That's his attitude now. You know, completely changed. Because remember, he's old school.
Old school,
right? You know, when I left school, it was go get a job. Get a job. That's it. Just get a job. And preferably a trade. He's old school, you know. So he's definitely changed his mindset when he sees what I've done. Because he's seen the tears in his eyes. I mean, I've been sitting there, oh no, this marketing company is fucking
fleeced me.
This is my business. What is it that you don't get?
Barry and Brian have fleeced me.
Because I feel, do you know what? See, when people let you down, you take it personal. Right? Because this is why I live by what we do now, right? See if a client came to me, right? Let's say a client takes one of my courses and they came to me and said, James, this isn't for me. I wouldn't tell them how tough you've paid it. I said, no worries, pal. It's not for everybody. That's how we treat our clients, you know. I also have clients for life. If a client came back to me 5 years later, now take a course, I don't see him for 5 years, and come back and say, James, I'm looking for help. No worries. In fact, I had a client say to me just not long ago there, because of something, I don't want to get into details because it's a bit illegal that he was going through, and we got lawyers and supported him and everything on it, free of charge. And he's like, why would you do that? And I said, why no? I don't want to be like any other training company, because I'm fucking no like any other training company. We are different. We tell it how it is, and what we do changes lives, man. You know that? It's just, that's why I'm so passionate.
We'll be sure to tag you and your business and all your social posts. Thanks a million for coming along. Pleasure. Cheers to everybody, as always, for listening. Give us a like and a follow on socials. And we'll be back next week, as always, with another guest.
Thanks
guys.
Thank
you very much, James.